What's up, this is Attila and welcome to Flow of Attila, the 9th one. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Hungarian guitarist. I used to play with the bands such as Nevermore, Satyricon, Sanctuary, World Dane Solo Band, amongst some others. But probably most of you ended up being here because of my love and affection towards Pantera and Dimebag. I have a Pantera tribute band called Vulgar Display of Cover, and I do tutorials, lessons, playthroughs for Pantera and just Dimebag related songs. Some original stuff, maybe, just whatever comes to mind. It's really something fluid. I just wanna, expand and just go with the flow with. So yeah, without further talk, let's just start today's Flow of Attila.
Ask me anything. In this series, I'm gonna be answering to beautiful questions, and again, I'm gonna be reading the questions in Hungarian and answering them in English with the best of my knowledge, just to spice things up, because I like it. Spicy. The first one would be from Dissonant_A. Pokoli általános iskolás voltam, amikor az Újra feltalálni az acélt lemez kijött. Még mindig emlékszem az első alkalomra, amikor meghallottam az eltűnést, és azon tűnődtem, mi lehetett benne, referring to the wah pedal part in the C section before the solo that I did a lesson to in my previous Flow of Attila. Próbáltad már a Dimebag Wah-ot? Nekem már van egy, szóval nincs szükségem, miután hallottam Kirkhamet, oda zenget róla, nagyon elcsábultam, hogy beszerezzek egyet. Yeah, I remember it's always been a very special song for me. It was just so dark. I cannot compare that song to any other Pantera songs. I think it has its own place in the catalog. To have that extreme contrast from that silly little roto vibe, flangery, chorusy, whatever effect, and then go to that low open E string. It's just so great and so evil. And the solo, it's just out of this world. Whether I had the Dimebag Wah pedal? Yes, I used to own one. Unfortunately, it got kind of destroyed. We played a show and from another band, the guy got super drunk and was kind of an arsehole. He poured some beer on me, and with that beer, he destroyed the wah pedal. We just couldn't fix it. It's on my wish list to get another one in the future. If you're comfortable and you know how to use the wah pedal and can express yourself very freely, like Dime used to do that, then you can achieve the kind of sound with other wah pedals, although Dime definitely had a very specific frequencies set up with his wah pedals. With the Dime Crybaby from Hell, there's so many options, and it has that little extra mojo and the possibilities to set it up the way like he did, and it's just easier to get that kind of sound. But with the wah pedal in itself, it won't do the magic. You have to learn how to use it properly. But yeah, it's an amazing unit, for sure. And then the next question would be from Alex G. Lukwe. Halli Attila, mi a tényleges haszna 440 alá hangolni? Használtad már valaha ezt valamelyik saját dalodban? Yeah, I actually did use tunings below 440. There was a time when I wrote some songs in 432, which is kind of a common, unusual tuning, more natural tuning, as they say. There's some videos on that where they explain why it is more natural than the 440. It's an interesting concept to me. Tuning anything different, drop tuning, tune down, tune up, or use different frequencies can be beneficial when it comes to being creative. So when I write something, make a quick decision and tune to somewhere and then come up with an idea. And if it doesn't work, I just, keep tuning until I find something that resonates with me. So that's how I think about it, and that's how I use it. But it used to be a little more challenging to find tuners where you can actually set up the frequencies. Even today, there's not that many that you can set up, go down to 425 or go up to 450. So it can be a pain in the ass, especially for the other members and if you have synths and whatnot. But again, to me, it helps being more creative. That's how I go about this question. Okidoki. From Diedo Rojo -N4M. Kiváló Tess. Azt tudod, Dime milyen pengetőt használt? Vastagsága? És te milyen pengetőt használsz, Tessa? Shit, I don't have a Dime pick with me. I have a picture that's framed there, kind of full with Dimebag picks. I'm gonna post that here somewhere. So Dime used to use the regular Dunlop Tortex 0.88 millimeter gauge. As of lately, I started to experience with lighter picks as well. For the Pantera tribute shows, I've been using a 0.88 just to push myself. I found it to be, as I got older and more lazy, more comfortable to use lighter picks. So I've been using in-tune picks, 3 different shapes. I kind of changed them. I got this one, the Jumbo Jazz 3, so it's a little bigger. 2 sides with my current logo. The triangle, I've been experiencing with this a lot. I made it a little sharper using a carpet. I'll show you that in another video. It's an amazing trick. You know what? Should I just make it now? This would be the last kind of pick that I use. More classic shape. All of them are 0.73 millimeter, but these in-tune picks, I found them to be a little less elastic than the Tortex. They feel a little harder. So what I do if I want to make them more pointier and sharp is on a carpet, 1, 2 on each side. See? Just much more sharp. An amazing method for this. I love it. Changed my life. Yep. Okay. If you want to get a couple, what do I do? What should I do? If you comment either on my YouTube site or on my Instagram, one of you will get a set of these used and unused. And then the last question from John_Sandilau. Melyik archetípust használod ezekhez az igazán remekül felépített Pantera hangzásokhoz? Oh, I think there's more like this. Like, I'm gonna just keep going in English. When are you going to show Dime's PQ3 settings and show your knowledge on his tone? And oh, one more. Hey Attila, I really want to ask which tone are you using in this video? Oh god, there's still more. What did you use for the tone? Still more? Shit. Mit használsz, hogy ilyen jól szólsz? For this tone, are you using amplitude? What the tone of domination? Also, I'm curious about your rig. Your dime spots are pretty spot on. Which your dime spots are pretty spot on. Yeah, I know. It's been coming up for a while now, and thank you. I appreciate it. So why don't we just start a series like this?
This is something that's been on my mind to do for quite a while. We'll do this in a series of videos because there's just so many different kind of gears that I personally use. I'm gonna be focusing on making Dimebag's sound, but I think it could be beneficial for those who would want to do more original stuff and whatnot, because this is a method that you can use for yourself and for your creative processes and finding your own sound. Today I'm gonna use Petrucci's neural DSP plugin and just see how I create the sounds and what kind of options you have, whether if you plan to use the stock IRs or if you wanna get some external IRs. When I think about achieving Dime's sound or any other sound in particular, the number one ingredient to me is what kind of cabinets or IRs you use and how do you mic it, and then what do you do in the post EQ section. These are the 2 main elements that shape the sound the most. Everything else is the rest. Even the amp to me is so secondary. When it comes to Dime sound, for example, in my Ampero stage, I use a Marshall JCM 800. Then the second most important thing to achieve Dime sound or any other sound, if we're talking about this sort of extreme metal sound where you need a lot of gain and attack, I would put the gain stage there, like how do you boost the preamp, how is your attack and the texture of your sound. If you have the proper IRs and the proper post EQ settings and also have enough gain and attack and texture from the amp with a boost pedal or an EQ pedal, then everything else is just nuances. I work in Cubase. What you can see here, I created several groups. So in group 1, yeah, I got this amp and I'm not using any additional EQs in front. It's only the plugin. We have this overdrive that comes stock, very basic. I turn down the tone. Most of the times I don't really like the sound of the tone that these boost pedals add. It's just not my taste, just too nasal for me. I don't like it. Apples and oranges. I wanted to make a preset where I'm not pushing it with an EQ. Let's see how it sounds. I think it sounds pretty good. I put together a preset using only the stock IRs, which would sound like this. I think it sounds pretty good. I made all these presets available on my Patreon site at patreon.com/Attila Attilavos, but you'll find it in the description. If you want to have this specific sound, you would also have to get Ola's Dime captured, which you can get at olaenglundshop.com. Recorded with passive pickup with my relict Far Beyond guitar that has Seymour Duncan GBs. I recorded this with the Focusrite Scarlett. It's not the best of the best, but for the price, I think it's a good one. Let me show you how big of a difference the cab can make. This is like with the stock one. I found this condenser mic the closest for my taste for that. And now if we go back to the dime capture, that's a really big difference. Let's hear this in a musical context. And now let's see what kind of a difference the EQing can make. What I usually do, even in the post EQ section, I push the low mids above 150, 160. Now I cut it, some of these low mids around 450, 400, something like that. I usually cut more extreme around 1K or 1200. That I don't really like in the mix. I do it everywhere now, live, when I record with all of my bands, and I love to cut that frequency up. It's just not for me, really. I'm also a little bit of deaf here at 4K, but this is something that helps the pick noise, for example, the attack. So let's hear without the EQ. Yeah, so again, this is all stock Petrucci stuff, but in this case with Ola's dime captured IR. But then most of the times I'd like to use an EQ pedal for the boost. So as you can see here in group 4 without the overdrive, and then I push this with the 2 EQs in front. So the G EQ is a 10-band graphic EQ that represents the MXR 6-band blue EQ pedal, and the studio EQ is a parametric EQ that represents the Furman, which, by the way, I learned much later that it was used before the preamp, like as a gain stage for dime. And I always thought that it was in the post section, but now I've been using it. So now I'm gonna show you chugging with the EQs. Without. Yeah, so the texture and that the amount of gain is, it lacks it now. And if I push it with the EQ, you would have to tame the low ends, especially live. It can be a little too much. But to be honest, when I was coming up with this preset, I think I made a better job with the stock boost pedal than with the EQs that I added in Cubase. And you can get this preset from my Patreon site if you wish, and if you get the Ola IR for it. But again, I made one without that. But if I would want to add an extra EQ there, try to find what annoys me. Okay, let's listen now to the original. Yeah, it got a little darker, and I think it's closer to the original one. Just one thing that I wanted to show you is that I have a footage that I already talked about earlier this year that I made when I was visiting the Fortress, and Grady was so freaking awesome and lovely to show me around. And I've been to one of the, well, actually two of the warehouses where they keep some of Dime's stuff, and I asked him about the Furman PQ. You'll see some of his amps, and Grady will show some of the presets that they had on the Randalls, talks about how they set up the Furman. So let's see.
It's like, let's see, so usually presents, there's a thing there, but usually presents I would run up to between 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm. What were the
That's
high frequencies on the Furman that you were... Bear in mind, I still thought at this point that the Furman was in the post-EQ session. So when I do the hummings, it was because the approach was different than what I experienced. But then it all made sense when I learned the fact that it was in the pre-section. Not that adding.
The 1.6, I think, on the PQ4.
Which I cut normally.
After
1.2. In the post-section.
All things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the high octave was, I mean, you could see that there's different marks. We do 3K sometimes.
Yes.
And then it would be anywhere between, it was peaked obviously, and then the dB, the dBs would change too as well.
Yeah, right.
The bandwidth never really did change, so that's just in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 1.5
I would have thought that you
would
cut
be
that.
Flat or
In
a
the
couple
post-section.
dB.
Ah, okay. Huh?
See, we switched from 700 to 850 on the second one, and that would either be 2 or 3 dB.
Now I know.
100, right? Yeah, 100.
You also push. Just one thing, like I consider it to a mistake, is to cut out all the guitar frequencies below 300. That's just a move front of house guys, and in studios people do. It just never sounded right to me. For example, around 100, 150, and even like around 250, 300, depending on what you're looking for. There's some really nice frequencies for guitar, for those low mids that give that really just a big fat body to the guitar. But it makes more difficult and more challenging to find the guitar's place in the context of a band where there's a bass guitar and the bass drum, of course. So you would have to work together as a team, take everything into consideration. But guitars should not be eliminated below 300 altogether. It's too extreme for me, at least.
Yeah, between 3 and 4 dB, or 2 and 4 dB. But yeah, so like everything was just a gain stage, and there's so many marks on the PQ3 that...
They were running both?
No, I was just...
Oh, okay.
See, there's so many marks on this thing that it's hard to tell. You know, it would change for songs too. Some songs would be different, you know, and in the studio they'd be constantly getting messed around with and marked. So
yeah,
yeah, there's just stuff that I had covered.
Nice. Yeah, right. Let me know what other gear, plugin, or pedals, whatever you want me to cover like this, and maybe set up Dime's sound. I'll definitely do more of these videos. Yeah, I hope you found this useful. Okie dokie, so let's move on. Since this past Sunday was the release of the song 20 Years, remembering Dime, 20th anniversary of his passing, was thinking that maybe I can show you chorus, the main riff of that song, which was totally written in the vein of Pantera and Dimebag. I wrote this tune for SWOLA 172. The song basically was written around that main riff idea. The tuning for this song is 440 standard C sharp. We start with the pre-bend from E1 up a little more than a half a note. It's a little sharp purposely. It adds some tension to the whole thing. And then I just release that. I do 2 bendings. And in between each there's a little rest, so. After I release it to the first fret, then an open E string and then a little rest. And twice. And then comes the D4, A4, open E and the 1. All that with an alternate picking, starting with the downstroke. So what I also do is that I play the D4 open and everything else with the palm mute. Like slowly so far. And then we repeat. So far. And then at the end of this round, down on the A3, up on the E1, and do a Texan bending, just bend it up at the end. So far, slowly. 2 more bendings, but the rhythm changes. Now the second one, instead of a half a note, it's just a quarter note, and then release an open E string. And then do again this. And at the end of the round, the and the fifth, and the second, I bend up, back and forth, half a note twice. From the 3, a whole note up twice. So just with the bend. And at the end, from the 5 to the 6, the first round, I add the major third on the A string, 5 and 6 on the E string, and 4 and 5 on the A. In the second round, it will be just a simple power chord. First round, slowly. And then the second round is very similar. There's a little rhythm change. Up until this, everything is the same. And then there's a quarter note rest, and then the same. The whole thing together, slowly. Well, thank you very much. This was it for today. I hope that you enjoyed today's Flow of Attila. If you have any questions for the next AMA, don't forget to put them in the comment section down below. As I've already told this several times in today's Flow of Attila, I have a Patreon site, so if you want to support me to grow this channel and or get tabs and other exclusive contents, just make sure that you click and check out the link down below in the description. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified of future content. Leave a like, feel free to comment, all that good stuff, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next time. I wish you a lovely and fun day. Ciao!